State receives almost $600 million. That pays for over 7,000 jobs in Wisconsin and accounted
We've got about
for
30 seconds.
almost
I'll keep an eye
$1.5
out.
billion in economic activity.
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh, along with our outstanding producer and engineer, Mr. Aaron Zommers, on the board. It is 6 past the hour of 12 noon on this Wednesday, February 26, 2025. It is a great day to be a Wisconsinite, and it is
Hump Day.
There you go. The camel has made it. Zommers, we have made it halfway through another week. How about that?
Last week of February.
All right. Last week, March is right around the corner. So spring, not too far. Was feeling very spring-like here in downtown Madison. Cloudy skies right now. Temperatures around the state of Wisconsin, though, going to be pertinent, near 50 degrees, maybe over it still.
T-shirt weather.
Right. I have my Packers polo shirt on today. Might get a little talk in, by the way, with our main guest this hour, as he always does every Wednesday afternoon, comes on, talks politics, but always likes to talk a little Packers, because he's a Packer owner. And there are rumors now. Here's the deal. The Packers are hosting the draft. Big hoopla, as well there should be. And rumors now, as the bright lights are on Green Bay, that they may be trading away their number one draft pick.
Really?
I mean, shouldn't the owners have a say on this? Shouldn't the owners have some kind of... We'll ask one of the owners here in just a minute. So
I imagine you can show up to the meeting. They
Right.
just probably won't listen to you if you have...
Wait a minute. Who are they thinking about trading for?
We'll ask the owner in just a second. Also, later on in this half hour, he is the superintendent of Eau Claire Public Schools. Mike Johnson is going to be on the program talking about our great public schools, as it is Public School Week. Looking forward to that. Also in hour number 2, a What's Worse edition today. And at the bottom of hour number 2, very happy to be having as our guest brand new State Senator Sarah Kieski of South Central and Southwest Wisconsin. Senator Kieski is going to be in talking about the right to repair bill, of which she is a co-author. Shouldn't it just make sense that if you own something that you should be allowed to work on it? She'll be in to explain why that is not always the case, and her legislation would give Wisconsinites the ability to do so. Pat Kreitlow is on kind of he says work vacation. I feel like he's back down in the Bahamas, but we'll find out next week. But who is here? Our old friend, ongoing contributor, former Republican like myself, River Falls boy, and now a senior advisor at the Lincoln Project, joining us from our nation's capital, Trygve Olsen, and a Green Bay Packer owner. How you doing,
Todd?
Trig?
There's so much going on this show today. I can't
Right?
keep up. First of all, who are the Packers thinking about trading for in the rumor mill?
I do not. We have to ask our great reporter,
Max Crosby, Myles Garrett. I'm all for it.
I don't know. We'll have to ask Mike Clemens at some point. I don't know that. I don't think they're telling who they're potentially doing it, but things are leaking at
It's
Lambeau
Myles
Field.
Garrett. It might be Myles Garrett or Max Crosby. That would be awesome. Trade the pick. Who cares?
But it takes all the fun out of it, Trygve. Here we are in
No, it
Green Bay.
doesn't.
They get to announce it, and then they say, and the Green Bay Packers, with their number one overall pick, trade it to blank.
No.
Nobody's going to cheer for that.
On September 8th on opening day, if they have to choose between some schlep that was playing in college last year and Myles Garrett, they're going to take Myles Garrett. No one's going to remember. No one stood up there.
All right. We'll talk more about, by the way, Tony.
If Myles Garrett gets up there and says, and the Packers have traded the 25th pick for Myles Garrett, people will go bananas.
All right, we'll see. Tony Zimmerman watching on Facebook says Myles Garrett would be huge huge.
Reggie
A great-
White big, not quite, but
all
almost.
right. Garrett was the defensive player of the year last year, Tony says. So
Yeah,
there
he
you go.
was.
All right, we'll see. We'll talk a little bit of Packers later on this hour. But right now, Trigby, let's turn. By the way, and I know it was late. But it's Public Education Week, and Mike Johnson's been on the program before. And so I texted Trigby yesterday. I said, could you reach out to your buddy Mike Johnson to see if he can come on the show? And Trigby was kind enough to take 10 seconds to text me and says, I'm a very important person. But here's his
No.
number."
I
don't
wasn't
you
playing
reach
that
out?
game. I had so much going on. I still do. I'm in like data hell.
I know.
I'm
I
looking at
won't-
the
I won't-
fears
I
of
won't-
Americans in relation to
I won't
their
say who, but you're having dinner with very important people. I've said this before. Your two lovely
lunch.
daughters.
I had lunch.
Your two lovely daughters. First and foremost, it's like that old Steve Martin. If I only had one wish at Christmas, it'd be for world peace. If I only had one wish for your daughters, Trigby, it'd be for the fatherly love that you show them. If I
They
had
get
two
a
wishes,
lot of it.
if I had two wishes, it would be that they inherit your Rolodex. Because with Trigby's Rolodex, those girls could get a lot done. Anyway,
Yeah.
but Mike Johnson was so kind, so we're going to have him on at the bottom of the hour talking about public education and what they're doing there in the Eau Claire public school system, which is fantastic, by the way. But
It
Trigby, I
is
want to
always good to see Mike. I used to
Yeah.
get to see Mike every Tuesday and Thursday my sophomore year of college when I would come traipsing into the back of Tim Hirsch's class. I miss those days.
don't we all those my mom
I'm
told
like
me
Eddie
while
Money, man. I want to go back.
my mom
That would
told
be a
me
good one to play as an intro, Summers.
my
Okay, your
told-
mom. Sorry.
Are you like going to the gym before these appearances now and
No.
and hyping up on protein drinks or whey or what's going on?
I don't go to the gym on Wednesdays because I'm on your show. And
Let's
I
get
play
in-
ice hockey on Wednesday nights.
Yes, you do. All right, let's get into the news of the day. Things ain't good, Trigby. I'm not sure if you noticed out there in the Beltway, but things are not good. And a couple of things that, in all seriousness, that I think is a troubling turning point, as one of the CNN people put. Yesterday, in the White House, now, for those people that don't know, when you see on the evening news, you're reading the paper or whatever about what the president, doesn't matter who they are, what the president did that day, there are what, Trigby? I mean, well over 100 different news organizations that have a White House correspondent. Well, you can't fit all those people into the Oval Office. They can't always fly on Air Force One to every appearance. And so there was what's called a press pool. And since 1913, 1914, the nonpartisan White House Correspondents Association has organized that pool. And they divide it up and they rotate it. And the deal is that whoever is with the president at whatever event, then they share that video, that audio, that reporting with all of the White House correspondents. They're free to put their take on it, but they all have access to the same basic information. That changed yesterday when the White House announced that they were going to start controlling the press pool now, not the White House Correspondents Association, but the Trump administration, the Trump White House, and that they were going to not just exclude people like the Associated Press, but also now Reuters is being thrown out, and that they're going to only allow places like Newsmax, The Blaze, these right-wing places to cover the president. And in this article in CNN, it says perhaps most telling, the Huffington Post was taken out of its planned Wednesday spot as the print pooler and replaced by Axios. Huffington Post reporter S.V. Dade, or I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name, has been a thorn in Trump's side for years, and Trump bristled at his questions the last time he was in the pool. Trigby, as you so often ask us, I think this is a good time for our listeners to just ask themselves, regardless of who they voted for, if someone else, if Kamala Harris had won and she banned Fox News, how would you feel?
Yeah. I mean, that's the question we all have to be asking ourselves. And it's a dangerous thing. I mean, part of living in a free society is the notion that politicians, particularly the president of the United States, have people who are asking hard questions and holding them accountable. And what they're trying to do here is basically let Pravda cover the administration. And to your point, Todd, which is one I make often, if Kamala Harris had won and said, we're only going to allow MSNBC to cover us, that would be wrong. And all the media organizations should stand up. And there is precedent. There have been other administrations that have tried this, both Republican and Democrat. And in fact, the last time Trump tried to do this, Fox News was one of the organizations that protested. They all protested by not coming to cover. That isn't happening this time. And I think it tells you, it begs the question, and I would ask this, if Harris were doing the same thing, what are they trying to hide?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why are they, why tight?
No, I totally agree with that. And in fact, I'm looking for the name right now. I don't have it in front of me. Whoever the White House correspondent is for Fox right now, I believe it's a woman, and I believe she actually did say this was not good for the long term because you're opening up the door for the other side, quote unquote, to do the same thing should a Democrat get back in the White House. So even the Fox News reporters are saying
100%.
This is not what you want here, folks.
Right. And there will be people on the right who will be doing what about, just as there are people on the left who do what about. If your side is doing it and it's wrong, you think it would be wrong if the other side is doing it, you need to call out and say. It's a real simple test that you can use for if what the other side is doing is wrong. We're either a country that has people that have faith in one another, or we're a country that lives in fear of each other. And people in Wisconsin and most people don't live that way with the people they encounter on a daily basis in places like River Falls or Richland Center or Beaver Dam or wherever. You're not afraid of your neighbors. You have to understand, but it's easy to vilify people who you don't know. And we've got to get a lot better at having empathy and understanding.
Also,
what I spend
overnight,
my life studying.
I want to get back to that, by the way. Also overnight, Jeff Bezos, who now owns the Washington Post, made a major change. Bezos sending an email to staffers at the Washington Post saying, quote, "We are going to be writing every day in support and defense of two pillars, personal liberties and free markets." That's it. That's all. And he offered David Shipley, the longtime editorial director at the Washington Post, the opportunity to stay on. But he told Shipley, you either have to say hell yes or else no. Shipley today walked away from the Washington Post. If this isn't state-run media, I'm not sure what is, but we will ask Trygve Olsen on the other side about that as someone who has fought against state-run media and who is banned from Russia by Putin himself. Stay with us. It's the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
News and great conversation. 92.7 WMDX.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. 3 elected officials in the Pennsylvania borough of Millburn are being arraigned on mail and voter fraud charges relating to a 2021 attempt to manipulate a town mayoral election. The Delaware County Daily Times reports that 2 borough council members allegedly recruited willing voters outside the Philadelphia suburb to support a 3rd council member's write-in campaign for mayor. The town of 1,200 residents has only 549 registered voters and one of the highest concentrations of citizens of South Asian descent in the country. The 3 allegedly solicited personal information from the outside voters, then logged in and changed their state voter registration addresses on the state voter information portal to a Millburn address. The Daily Times quoted the indictment as alleging, in total, defendants Mohammed Nural Hassan, Mohammed Mansour Ali, and Mohammed Rafqul Islam falsely registered nearly 3 dozen non-Millburn residents as Millburn voters and cast ballots for those non-Millburn voters in the 2021 general election for mayor of Millburn.
And Van
Okay.
Orden is putting out
Hassan
press
still
releases
lost the
saying he's
election,
not. But if you look at the bill,
175 to 138.
that's
Defendant
just a lie.
Islam was arraigned February 25th, and Ali and Hassan face a judge.
The main
February
thing is how
27th.
much this is going to
Actual
affect
voter fraud
our
remains
rural
exceedingly
hospitals.
rare nationwide, and even
Okay.
more rarely affects the outcome of elections, despite partisan disinformation. Find more at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
Hey everybody, Dane County Humane Society reminds you, hey, bang on the hood of your vehicle before starting your engine this winter. It's that simple. You can save a cat's life. With frigid temperatures and little shelter, some cats are going to try to find a way to keep safe and warm, including, guess where? Under car hoods and in the wheel well of your vehicle. So before climbing into your vehicle and starting the engine, bang on the hood and give cats an opportunity to flee. To learn more, visit giveshelter.org. Similar times when Trigby Olsen just, put on a pair of skates and hit people on the ice up there at River Falls. And, we went home and watched Dan Rather and Walter Cronkite on TV and the big
And Pat
controversy.
Greitlow.
And Pat Greitlow. And the big controversy was, did Reagan and Tip O'Neill, put a jab at each other, but then they sat down, had a drink, and everything was fine. Those were the 1980s, Trigby. But that is not what we're living in today.
I missed the 1980s.
Me too. 21 minutes now past the hour of 12 noon on February 26th. Trigby Olsen, senior advisor at the Lincoln Project, is with us now. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, Mike Johnson will be along with us, talking about Public Education Week. Cannot wait for that. But Trigby, before we do that, I want to finish up here a couple of things that I find particularly disturbing that you have had experience with all over the world. The first of which, at the Washington Post last night and into this morning, now owner, multi-billionaire Jeff Bezos giving longtime political editor at the Post an ultimatum, saying that the Post is going to now only focus, their opinion page will only focus on two things: personal liberties and free markets. And giving Shipley an ultimatum saying you either have to say hell yes and stay, or else it has to be a no. And Shipley said, no, I'm not going to be told as editorial opinion editor that I could only write about, and my editors can only write about two things, so he is leaving. And finally, before I let you speak, in the CNN story today, saying that New York Times White House correspondent Peter Baker did not take the actions yesterday of having Trump now decide the press pool lightly. This is what Peter Baker said, quote, "Having served as a Moscow correspondent in the early days of Putin's reign, this reminds me of how the Kremlin took over its own press pool and made sure that only compliant journalists were given access," unquote. Trigby, you've been banned by Russia, by Putin himself. You have fought for democracy and against autocracies in Eastern Europe. Am I overinflating this? Am I making too big of a deal out of Bezos' comments, what's happening in the White House, saying that we are perilously close to having state-run media in this country?
Well, I would say, and I know Peter from back in the day when I was doing stuff in that part of the world, I would, Peter's words are spot on. It is not dissimilar to what's happened in a lot of places, Hungary and where other places. And what happens here is allies, rich allies of, oligarchs in some cases, buy up the media, and then they make the media compliant. It's one of the dangers of having media owned by, non-independent sources. And I think, Jeff Bezos and these guys, I was talking to somebody who comes from that world recently, who's super smart about it, who's in that category of people, and they said, listen, what you have to understand is Bezos, Elon, all these guys, what it's really about is the future of AI and who's going to control it. And Jeff Bezos wants to control it. Elon Musk wants to control it. Mark Zuckerberg wants to control it. They all have competing systems. Obviously, Sam Altman and ChatGPT are out in the front. You've got all these players, and it's the danger of having somebody who's as transactional as Donald Trump, where it's all for sale. And so Jeff Bezos is trying to protect his own interests because he doesn't want somebody to come along and take what he has. And that's what I mean by fear. Even if you're Jeff Bezos, the world's second richest man, you live in fear of the world's richest man being able to come and take your stuff. And does anybody think that Elon Musk wouldn't come and take other people's stuff? He'd take your house if it had value to him. Now, granted, most people's houses in Wisconsin wouldn't be something he'd be interested in. But
I want to get back to that in a second, Trigby. But Brendan, watching on YouTube, asks, the Associated Press is being kicked out. Yes, Brendan. In fact, the Supreme Court has now upheld that to date, although that case is still pending, that Donald Trump is not allowing the Associated Press to cover him. The reporter's not allowed to. The Supreme Court thus far has upheld that. And also yesterday from the Pentagon, one of the Pentagon spokespeople tweeted out against a reporter saying, well, that may this is paraphrasing now, but basically that may teach them a lesson. This is the Trump administration saying the only people we are going to allow to cover us are people and organizations that say good things about us and don't ask the president tough questions. And to your point, Trigby, I want to come back to this. Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk might not want any of our houses, most houses in Wisconsin. What they do want is our political power. And that's why Elon Musk now is approaching $1 million in dark money spending on our state Supreme Court race.
Yep. And, I mean, I'm a pretty conservative guy, but the reality is you have a class of people. And I think, most people, I guess most listeners have probably never met anybody in that net worth category. I've, through what I do, gotten to know a fair amount of them and interact with some of them. And in fact, some of them I consider my friends. I'm not in that net worth category, but you have to understand they have a very different understanding and perspective on the world. In fact, people should read Kara Swisher's book called The Burn Book about the Silicon Valley guys. It's fantastic. And Kara is amazing, much like Peter Baker.
Yeah. I'm getting ready to call it, Trigby. I do this in sports with my friends all the time. We'll be texting back and forth a Packer game or a Badger game. It might be in the second half with 8 minutes to go in a Badger game. You're like on last Tuesday. By the way, the Badgers got a nice win over the University of Wisconsin, or over Washington last night. The real UW beat the fake UW. But over the weekend when the Badgers got beat, text back and forth, say, I'm calling it over, game over. I'm kind of getting ready to call it on traditional American democracy. We have now Trump taking over the press. We have the United States voting with our sworn enemies, North Korea and Russia. Not even China, by the way, voted in favor of the or voted against the resolution identifying that it was Russia who attacked Ukraine. I'm waiting kind of for one more major shoe to drop. They'll still call it democracy, right, Trigby? But I really feel we're getting close to no longer having true traditional American democracy.
Yeah, we can talk about that on the other side. But I mean, the bottom line is people equate democracy with elections, but democracy is a lot more than elections. In fact, elections are just a mean to an end in democracy.
We'll save that part till 10 till, but right now we're going to talk public schools with Mike Johnson and Trigby Olson. Don't go anywhere. It's the Civic Media Radio Network.
What a good day. I get to see Mike. That's
Mike,
exciting.
thanks for coming on short notice, and don't worry, we won't ask you to comment on the end of democracy.
Awesome. Awesome. Eddie Money.
Something's not sounding right.
Hang
we
on,
can't
time out. Yep.
really hear you.
Is this working?
Mike.
Yeah, it's still sounding.
It has we
got,
got
like,
feedback.
feedback.
And we can't, your voice is really quiet. No, not. If you have like earbuds, but otherwise we have like 4 minutes yet. We can go to phone if you want to as well if it's not working.
Yeah, if you don't have earbuds to give it a shot, we should probably switch to phone.
No, start moving on the phone here.
Okay, that's cool. We can leave your camera on, just mute your mic there, and then we can just use the audio off the phone.
This.
Hey, now we can do anything. Look at that.
We okay now?
Yeah, now it's
Yep.
fine. Must be your computer that was your laptop or whatever.
Yeah. This will work if it's good for you guys.
Yeah, that
Now
works.
you're really good.
That's fantastic. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, Trey, good to see you. Todd, Wildcats with a sectional win last night in hockey.
Nice.
Old Abe's in Division One. Go to the sectional final Friday, so it's a good time for
Who's
for
Memorial?
us.
Who's Memorial playing?
They're playing Wausau on Friday.
Interesting.
Yeah,
They have such a good hockey tradition there.
yeah.
I was up
Yeah.
in Hayward last week, and they were all excited about their girls hockey team, which actually made it to state as well. I think they're taking on Wausau as well. So
Yes, sir. Mike, you're almost an empty nester.
I'm getting there. Yeah, as soon as graduation hits, he's off to Iowa. So
I know. That's big.
yeah, he's
Really cool.
I think he got senioritis in November.
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably once he decided on going to Iowa, it was time.
Yeah, it was time. It was time. But yeah, looking forward to finishing up basketball coming up, and then once the spring hits.
Yeah. Are they good this year in basketball?
You know, the sectional's wide open. We had I don't know if you know Brad Gretz,
Yeah, of course.
Matt Gretz. Brad's son Brody he was our leading scorer, and he ripped his quad. He was out for about 4 weeks. So we're 12-10, something like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, we'll be all right.
And it's a fun time of the school year. With
It is.
And winter sports are the best because it's mostly
Yeah.
team sports.
Yeah. The
All right,
weather's
the
a lot
Volleyball
better.
team good?
30 seconds, guys. Here we go.
Yep, 30.
Yeah.
Right.
As always, volleyball team solid. Yeah.
Welcome back, everybody. It is now 34 minutes past the hour here. Glad to have you along with us on this beautiful day here in Wisconsin, all across Wisconsin. Joining us, the senior advisor of the Lincoln Project former River Falls boy. You can take the boy out of River Falls, but you can't take River Falls out of the boy. Trygve Olson, now a
Never.
senior advisor to the Lincoln Project, and our special guest in this segment, Mike Johnson, who is the superintendent of public schools in the one, the only, the beautiful Eau Claire School District there in Northwest Wisconsin as well. Mike, thanks so much for coming on today, and on rather short notice, but we, Trygve sent his minion, me, to book you, his friend, and I appreciate you saying yes.
Hey, I'm so glad for the invitation. And as always, Trygve and Todd, whenever you call, I'm always interested if I'm available. So yeah, more than happy to. Really excited to talk. It's Public Schools Week, and it's a great week for us.
It really is, and my whole family are educators. I'm fond of this, but for you folks, and not just Eau Claire, but for public educators across the state of Wisconsin, what does this mean to you as administrators, to your teachers, to your students, and how are you celebrating that?
It's really, it's a thankful time in Eau Claire. Just one example, we've got a very active retiree group, but also some community members with the Wisconsin Public Education Network, and we've got signs at all our schools celebrating, promoting Public Schools Week. We love our public schools here in Wisconsin. And, Monday morning in the snowbanks, now they're no longer in the snowbanks, but Monday morning in the snowbanks, I got a few pictures from some of those. We had a board meeting last week, and we were able to, talk about how much our public schools mean to us in celebration and recognition. And at every school, there's maybe a little bit something different. And but yeah, it's certainly a special week here in Wisconsin for our public schools.
One of the things I just wanted to ask a little bit about is we're in the middle right now, not in the middle, but getting towards the end of the school year. This is an exciting time where we're in the middle of getting ready for state wrestling. We've got, basketball coming up. I know you folks have hockey. I know that school is academics, but for so many of our communities across Wisconsin, there also are communities. Talk a little bit, Mike, in the Eau Claire School District about some of the successes outside of academia that just makes it part of the community.
It is. Those activities and events are really important for our kids and their families. Just a couple weeks ago, a show choir competition at Memorial High. Fast forward to now, we've got the tournament series for athletics, and whether it's wrestling, whether it's hockey, whether it's swimming, whether it's basketball, girls basketball just kicked off this week. There's always something to do on a Tuesday or a Thursday or a Friday or a Saturday. And if we're working here, like last night, I was watching Memorial. I had them on the broadcast, and then, with streaming, and I was able to watch River Falls for a little bit and able to watch North Huskies basketball. It's an interesting time, and an exciting time for kids and families and, making memories.
Trygve?
Yeah, I mean, I think you get to the heart of it, Mike, and we've had this conversation a lot of times. It's the cornerstone of the communities, right? Like people, it's what they're talking about on Wednesday morning or Sunday, and when they go to church, and people lose sight of the fact that in our small towns, like where you and I are from, that is the hub. But not only is it the hub of socially, it's the driver of the economic engine, right? Like, people go from the public schools to our public universities, and then they're the lawyers and the teachers and the nurses. And so it's easy for people to demonize public education if they don't pause and think just what a hub. It is truly what makes the state of Wisconsin an amazing place.
Mm-hmm. No, I couldn't agree more. And, many school leaders, I'll just talk about my own field. I'm unapologetic about my athletic background and coaching and teaching. And, at times, people mention that about athletics or this or that. It's very important. It was important to my family. It was important to me. And it, it's that element of competition. And when you fail in athletics or in the activity you're in, whether it's show choir, whether it, forensics, it doesn't matter. It teaches you that stick-to-itiveness in your, whether it's the college or university you attend, and then into your life. We compete. I still compete. Do I look at the statistics on the state report cards in November when they're unembargoed and the embargo's listed? And do we look at, do I look at our regional schools? Do I look at schools that are our size and how we're achieving and our growth? Absolutely. And, I think part of that is that competition, whether it's in an activity or whether it's in athletics.
We're talking with Mike Johnson. He is the superintendent of public schools in the Eau Claire School District in Northwest Wisconsin, along with Trygve Olson, senior advisor at the Lincoln Project. Mike, if you could just talk a little bit about, because Trygve and I talk a lot about what happens in Washington. Of course, he has a lot, all this experience, as you well know, but we try to put it through a Wisconsin lens. And I think when we hear all these stories about immigration and changing policies, a lot of folks don't stop and think how that affects families in Wisconsin, and in particular, our schools. And I know you've been very adamant about keeping our public schools as safe places for students to learn. If you could talk a little bit about what these changes in Washington immigration, the effects it has had for you locally in Eau Claire, and how you've dealt with that.
I think we dealt with it very well, according to our families and the community. About a month ago, we were in Milwaukee for the state education convention with our board members and a few administrators. And that's when things really started to pick up a little bit with that executive order on immigration. We talked about it in the large district caucus, where 20 to 25 of the largest school districts talk about these matters, when we were down in Milwaukee. And you know what? Consult with legal, consult with DPI, examine your own policies. And we put something out to our staff and our families. And yes, it got circulated around the media, and that's fine. But we follow our policy, and here's the steps we take. We have control in our schools. We have control of our educational environment. And if an ICE agent were to come in, here's how we would handle it. They don't have carte blanche. They're a visitor like anyone else, but we have certain things that we need to examine. And we shared that with our principals. We shared that with our families after and our staff, so that everybody felt comfortable. But it really is quite a bit of trauma to some families in our district. And, when we made that announcement on a Monday evening, I'd have to say 15 or 20 to 1, the positives that we heard from families across the district. Just about, this is how the schools will handle in that type of a case. And unfortunately, social media the next day, somebody posts something about seeing somebody at an ICE agent at 2 of our schools. Well, then that sets us back. And the nice thing was, here in Eau Claire, the law enforcement agencies said, that's very disturbing, and it really goes against all that we believe in, and the partnerships that we have with the schools and the community. Is it just causes unnecessary trauma and to our entire community.
I was just impressed with, just real quick, I was just amazingly impressed, Mike, with your leadership, with your district. You didn't make it partisan. You put the students first. You included the community, and you included law enforcement. And I was particularly impressed with the way law enforcement worked with the school district. And I think it's a great example how people in Washington don't think about how these things are going to affect the local communities. And then it's on your shoulders and the police chief and everybody else in the community. And I just thought what you all did in Eau Claire was just an example of how it should be handled. Trygve?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Mike, you and I have been friends for a long time, and that's a testament to the public education system too, right? Like I was saying before you got on, walked into Tim Hirsch's class and been friends ever since. But I mean, I'm proud of the way that you've been leading on it, and I think your leadership really, you hit on perhaps the most important point, the trauma that's caused and that you have to mitigate is not just for the kids who, I guess we lost Mike, but the trauma isn't just for the kids who who might be deported, who are victims in it, but it's for all of them, all the kids who are sitting in that classroom, because that's their friend,
Right.
right?
Yeah. It's relationships. It's relationship building. Mike, do we have you
Sorry,
back now?
yeah, sorry about that, guys. I
No
think I
worries.
did catch enough from what you had shared, but to Trigvy's point
Yeah,
at
I was
the
just
end,
busy praising you, Mike.
yeah,
I'm proud of you, buddy.
hey, that's that River Falls and UW Eau Claire connection, I'm sure.
Right.
No, it like you had both mentioned, it was the trauma wasn't necessarily to families directly impacted. It was, my friends, kindergarten through fifth grade students at an elementary school. My friends, this could happen to my friends, and that was something that that we had heard from other families as well. Not just some of our, like I said, some of our families were directly impacted.
Yeah. As we look ahead, we're talking with Mike Johnson, Superintendent of Public Schools in Eau Claire, celebrating this Public Schools Week. As you look at the what's on the horizon in terms of we're in a state budget right now, and I know you don't like to get partisan political. That's absolutely fine. But just help us understand as lay people who are not in education, because I think a lot of us just don't understand it because we're not there. What would you like the general public to be aware of the challenges, but also the opportunities for public education in Wisconsin?
Well, yeah, that's a heck of a question. It'd probably be a 2 to 3 hour conversation,
Sure, right.
and things we discussed, like
top
last
one or
April
two.
when you guys, yeah, when you guys when we had this at the university last year. Ultimately, Wisconsin schools have been severely underfunded for decades, and it's really magnified now with with the ESSER monies that came in to really help with the results or the impact of the pandemic. Well, with Wisconsin, not getting in the past biennium to get any increase in our funding. Well, now we're seeing the results of that, where this is largely on the taxpayer, where we went to referendum in November, and about a third of the schools in the state had gone to a referendum for their operations. The day-to-day stuff, it's people, it's supplies, it's programming. And, now we've got to wait till June or July to get a budget, a new biennial budget. Well, I think the statistics are right now 93 districts or 85 districts, maybe 93 questions are going in February. I think there were 5 or 6, and the rest are going to go in April, on April 1st. Again, and that's what we heard throughout our 65 referendum presentations for the funding of our schools, equitable funding of our schools, is that this is not just an Eau Claire problem. This is a regional, this is a statewide problem, that schools are not funded as they should be, keeping up with inflation, and with the programming and positions that people had found necessary as a result of COVID to keep those things going, keep those people in those positions, keep those systems moving. And it'll be very interesting to see how many districts go to referendum in November if there isn't some serious work done, whether
Mike,
it's on the, special education funding, for example.
30 seconds left, Mike. Anything we have not asked you want people to know about Eau Claire Public Schools during this Public Schools Week?
You know what, you mentioned it before, it's a nonpartisan issue. And we found that in our referendum. We had a big ask for the taxpayers, the largest that we've had in Eau Claire, to my knowledge. But, we had 65% who voted yes. So there are plenty of Republican folks that strongly support our schools here in Eau Claire. And I'm really proud of that. And I'm proud of our community.
Mike Johnson, Superintendent of Public Schools in Eau Claire. Mike, you and all your team are part of what makes Wisconsin great. Keep doing a great job. Thanks for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for all you do.
Stay tuned. Back after this. Awesome job. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
This is
thanks,
so
guys.
good.
Trig, whenever you're in town, give a shout. Love to see you, or you pop in Eau Claire.
Yeah, I gotta hop back one of these days soon.
Yeah.
I need to see our mutual friend, my buddy, who's got kind of a hard time. So but I don't want to get into it while we're streaming. But yeah. I'm going to be back. So
Marty Wood says hi. We watched a hoops game
Oh my
together
God.
on Saturday. Yeah.
no way, Marty
Totally.
Wood. Oh my
Yes.
God, Marty Wood
Yep.
taught me I had him for intro to film. That was probably my favorite class I had at Eau Claire.
Yeah.
Marty
No,
Wood's
we
a
had a-
national treasure.
We had a blast. He's he dates one of our school board members, and
Really?
it was so awesome to sit. Yeah, it was so awesome to sit with both of them. Lori just told me, she said, "Hey, next time you go to a Blue Gold game, let us know." So I went over to see my son, and we went and watched the
Yeah.
game, and Lori and Marty sat with us, and it was a blast.
Oh my God, it would be really fun. The next time I'm through Eau Claire, we should take him down to Ray's and have some.
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
A couple of adult beverages and some ham sandwiches. He would
got
love
it.
that. Okay.
got it.
All right. That's very cool. We'll tell Marty hi.
I will.
Tell him I still
See you
remember
guys.
intro to film every time
right.
I watch
All right.
Running Man.
I will.
Thanks, Mike. All right.
See you guys.
All right.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye.
Well, there you go. That was great.
Yeah.
So again, the reason I did
Honestly, the
say-
people of Wisconsin and the people of Eau Claire are so lucky to have Mike. I can't even. Yeah.
they really are.
30 seconds.
Phenomenal.
I didn't
Just a
mention our
leader.
show name going in and out. Zommers, I'll talk later. I'm going to replay that tomorrow morning at 7:30 on Kreitlow's show because I'm guest hosting. So
Oh yeah.
Beautiful.
I never get asked to guest host Kreitlow's show.
You wanna
'cause
come
he's
on in the
afraid
morning?
I don't talk before. No, I don't.
here we go. You got to get up pretty early in the morning to strap on the skates and go out there and practice on that clean ice as the sun comes up over the St. Croix River in order to be an NHL star. And that's
Yeah.
why Trivy Olsen
That's
is never
far from
an
that.
NHL star.
That's right.
Not
That's
a morning
100%
person.
right. Not a morning person. No.
But
No.
how about Mike Johnson, who is, what a great guy. I know he's a good friend of yours.
He's an All-American. He's a Division III All-American basketball player.
Was he really?
Mike
I
Johnson.
guess
was
you did tell me that.
phenomenal basketball
That's
player.
right. He gave
And
gave
his
my
son,
platinum
son's signed a full ride at Iowa to play tight end.
That's amazing. Good for him. No, when Mike was on the team, he gave my Platteville Pioneers fifth. But the only team that Bo Ryan ever really had a problem, Kenny Anderson and the Blue Golds were a thorn in Bo's
yeah.
side all those years.
They
'cause
had
they
some-
just had great teams.
They were loaded. I mean, Mike Johnson and Mike Frazier.
Yep. Many
Praise,
thanks
if
to
you're
Mike-
listening, shout out. Probably is since Johnson was on.
Many
And
thanks to Mike-
he does stuff in education too.
Many thanks to Mike Johnson, Superintendent of Public Schools, as we celebrate this Public Schools Week. Trivia, I want to go back quickly because we started this at the bottom of the hour. I didn't want to drag Mike into our partisan discussions, but I'm every time I say this now, all I think of Joe Biden when I say I'm not joking around, but I'm not joking around. When you look at what's happening in Trump icing out media people who don't agree with him now and controlling the White House press pool, as you look at the Washington Post and Jeff Bezos taking control of a very narrow op-ed window, as you look at the United States now voting with our sworn enemies in North Korea and Russia against our NATO allies on Ukraine. You talked about this earlier. I'm getting very close to saying, yes, people will call it a democracy, but the reliable, dependable, traditional American democracy that we've enjoyed for nearly 250 years is on the precipice of disappearing. You said it's not just all about elections. Explain.
Yeah, I mean, people tend to, think about elections as democracy just because you vote. That is what makes it democracy. I mean, people vote in Russia, people vote in Iran, people vote in lots of places, and they don't have democracies. Democracies really are built on a lot of different things. The rule of law, that we're a country where there's a set of rules, and those rules apply to everybody. That is certainly under assault. Where there is process, where it's slow, it's deliberative, it's freedom of speech, it's freedom of assembly, it's freedom of the press that politicians can be held accountable. And it's not just elections. And we've had this tendency to, those pillars are under assault. And we have a tendency for people to think, well, democracy is just, I get to go and vote on a Tuesday in November or April. That really isn't what it's about. It's about a system that wraps a whole schoolhouse rock of pieces around the fact that holding power is very zero sum. And if you don't have mechanisms for holding that zero sum in place, those people who want to control everything are going to seek to do that. And ultimately, everyone loses when that's the case. And we're dangerously close to that point. I don't disagree with you, Todd. That said, I don't want people to be all pessimistic. I don't want people to be all pessimistic because I will tell you,
realistic.
Listen, I will tell you, I have seen this around the world. That de Tocqueville said, "Democracy is like a rising tide; it only recoils to come back with greater force." And I think de Tocqueville is right in that. And we're seeing that in places. There are people standing up to these assaults. You're seeing that with the Fox News reporter saying this is really troubling, right? Like, it requires people on the side that is attempting to do it to speak up. I am still a conservative in a very traditional sense, but I believe in democracy more. And I'm willing to make alliance for people who I want to have a right to free speech. I want my kids to have a right to free speech. I want my kids to have a right to peaceful assembly. I want my kids to be able to go and have people that are holding those who have power accountable. That is a far better world than the alternative. And I've seen the alternatives up close. And I think that's what Peter Baker is talking about when he's saying, people should, and I'm not trying to just flout my own horn here, but the people that do the best job of covering this as reporters, the people who seem to have the greatest understanding of this are the people who've actually had to spend time and live in those places.
Right. And we've seen the people standing up this week in Wisconsin, showing up at town halls with Glenn Grothman and Scott Fitzgerald. Unfortunately, Derek Van Orton refuses to hold town halls. But those who have gotten an earful, and, they've been, fairly respectful, no violence or anything like that. But I think that is important that people continue to show up and voice their actions. As Reed Galen said of this program a couple of weeks ago.
We the people.
Get involved in your communities.
Listen, here's the thing. Derek Van Orton run around, we the people, we the people, we the people. Why doesn't he want to? Is he no longer we the people? Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, that's the whole thing. Well, I mean, it's all these guys. Mike Lee, a senator from Utah. I remember listening to him speak one time where he talked about carrying the Constitution around in his pocket. He's being awfully quiet when pieces of the Constitution are being circumvented. Mm-hmm. In fact, he's been speaking the other way. The question is, I mean, it's like my buddy Stuart Stevens, colleague, was it all just a lie? Did they not believe it? And the we the people stuff. Derek Van Orton would have been, I'm all about states' rights. Now that you have states saying we're not doing this, this is our purview. Well, now they're not for states' rights. Do they not stand for anything other than themselves being in power? The truth of the matter is that is what they stand for.
Trigby Olson, Senior Advisor at the Lincoln Project. Always a pleasure. 15 seconds, 10 seconds.
I love the music, Zommers. We're like Power Civic Radio today.
All right, thanks, Trigby. We'll see you next Wednesday, my friend. Be safe. Trigby Olson, Senior Advisor, Lincoln Project. What's Worse is coming up in hour number 2. Also, State Senator Sarah Kieski. Come on back. It's hour 2 on the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media.
We need to get out on the road, Todd.
You're right, we do. We're working on
we should go to work on that. We need to come up with some dates. Let's do it. Let's do it maybe in April.
All right, we'll work on that. Thanks, Trig. Appreciate you.
All right, see you guys.
See you later. Bye.
Right. Bye.
Also, we know when the next text to win contest is. I don't know if we're allowed to say it, so I put it in the chat.
Oh, thank you. All right, just 1 week. All right, 1 week.
I guess I don't know. I know I'll have to watch the video. I missed the meeting yesterday.
So did I.
Because I get I work on things.
I know. I forget the meeting.
And it's at 4:05, and I'm like, I get the 10-minute notification at 3:55, and I'm like, all right, I got 5 minutes to work on stuff, and then I'll go on. And then I look at the clock, and it's 5 o'clock.
I know. I do the same exact thing.
But
You understand? Zommers and I, we missed the meetings.
we have some similarities that are not good.
We really should show up for rehearsal one of these days. All right. I'll be back in a second. Stay tuned, everybody. Don't go anywhere. Big second hour ahead.
In the Between a Rock and a Hard Place Department, Republican lawmakers.
Yeah, right to repair is a
President
big
Trump
deal.
and Elon
So
Musk today at a cabinet meeting at the White House announced more layoffs, firings, and buyouts of federal employees are coming. On Capitol Hill, ABC's Jay O'Brien.
They have constituents in their various districts, some of whom are federal employees that have lost their jobs, that are demonstrating. And on the other side, they have to demonstrate loyalty here to President Trump, who has fully thrown his support behind Elon Musk.
President Trump also announcing he'll sign a mineral mining deal with Ukrainian President Zelensky at the White House Friday, not confirmed by Zelensky. A federal judge has temporarily blocked efforts to stop refugee resettlements, saying a Trump order goes against the system Congress set up. A death of a child in the U.S. from measles in Texas. Pope Francis still in a Rome hospital with pneumonia. The Vatican reporting a further slight improvement. This is ABC News.
Enjoying this local program? Find the complete Civic Media lineup at civicmedia.us or the Civic Media app.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. A passenger attacked a Madison bus driver last night, causing the driver to lose control and crash into a restaurant. Madison police say it happened on Milwaukee Street near Stoughton Road. They say a woman went after the driver, and that driver crashed into Asian House, that's right near Woodman's. They say the woman then ran off. 2 people were hurt, and firefighters had to get them out of the bus. They're expected to be okay, though. Authorities are now searching for that woman responsible. The owner of a popular ski hill was arrested for allegedly assaulting a teenager. 39-year-old Nathaniel McGree owns Tyrol Basin in Mount Horeb. According to the Dane County Sheriff's Office, they responded to a 911 call about a distressed 17-year-old on Monday night. The teen said he went to Tyrol without buying a pass and was told to leave. He told deputies McGree and another employee chased after him and assaulted him. The sheriff's office says McGree demanded the teen pay $120, double the cost of a pass, and he did. McGree was arrested for disorderly conduct and child abuse. His first court appearance is today. And amid an immigration crackdown, the federal government will be creating a new field office in Wisconsin for immigrations and customs enforcement. Data reported by NBC News shows about 4,400 people were detained by ICE in the first 2 weeks of February, and 40% of them had no criminal record. ICE used to post daily detention data, but has stopped. Stuart J. Waddles has more about the plans for Milwaukee's northwest side.
Paperwork recently filed shows the federal government plans on bypassing local zoning regulations to move their downtown offices. The move, according to Urban Milwaukee, has been in the works since spring of 2023. Despite opposition from local officials, the federal government can override local regulations, which leaves the city with limited options to stop the project.
That's Stuart J. Waddles reporting. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. This is 92.7 WMDX News.
The Bucks fall short in Houston. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Milwaukee Bucks played well on defense, but missed shots on offense. They lost to the Rockets, 100-97. Head coach Doc Rivers.
This is one of those games that'll keep you up at night. It really was. And I thought we would have a big advantage from the three-point line, and it was a dead heat.
Men's college basketball, Wisconsin and Marquette, both with wins at home. The Badgers beat the Washington Huskies, 88-62. John Blackwell scored 24 points.
Start off with the defense, just like getting after it. Listen to what coach said. Let my offense game do the work for itself. So, yeah, I think it was just a defensive end.
Marquette trounced Providence, 82-52. Baseball, Brewers with a 9-6 win over the Cleveland Guardians. At the NFL Scouting Combine, will defensive back Jair Alexander be back with the Pack?
Yeah, he's never said anything differently, and, I think he loves Green Bay. Again, we'll work through that as we go through the offseason and see where that leads.
That's Packers GM Brian Gutekunst with Sports on Mike Clemens.
This is your local Civic Media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it at civicmedia.us.
Mostly cloudy and still mild today, with high temperatures still reaching the mid-40s. Spotty sprinkles are possible this afternoon and into the evening, and by morning may mix with a little snow. Otherwise, tomorrow it'll be breezy and cooler with highs tapping 40. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. It's 46 degrees at our studios.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA
If you're
can be
living with dry
unpredictable and
age-related
progress
macular
rapidly,
degeneration,
leading to
stop
irreversible
that.
vision loss.
It's not
Now,
fun. My
there's
grandmother has
something
that.
you
It's
can do
not
to
fun.
I believe it.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
All right.
I'm not
walking uphill or walking downhill. There, people in the stream know the thing.
I got to see if I'm eligible for LASIK or something like that. Otherwise, I do not feel good about the future of my eyes.
Well, that's not good. Good Lord, we got to take care of Zomer's eyes now.
Anyway, 30 seconds.
All right.
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh, along with Mr. Aaron Zommers, our producer and engineer. It is 6 past the hour of 1 o'clock. Welcome into hour number 2 of the big program here. It is Wednesday, February 26, 2025. It is a great day to be a Wisconsinite, and it is Hump Day. Look at that. The camel has made it with us here to the middle of the week. Glad to have you along with us. Many thanks to Trygve Olson, Senior Advisor at the Lincoln Project, as well as Mike Johnson, Superintendent of Public Schools in beautiful Eau Claire, for being here in hour number 1. Coming up in hour number 2 at the bottom of the hour. Stick around because going to have some great information for you after the bottom of the hour news at 1:34. New freshman State Senator Sarah Kieski is going to be here in our studios. I understand now this is the benefit of being downtown Madison. We have right near the Capitol and the walk on down. So we have Senator Kieski is going to be here in person in the studio.
Yeah, I believe she has a meeting shortly after, but because we're a block away,
boom,
she can just walk right over there.
That's fantastic. We love that when that happens. So look, and Senator Kieski represents the old hometown now in Richland Center. So it's a very diverse district. We'll talk to her about this. She is from Lodi, but the district goes from all the way in Richland Center and parts of Sauk County and stretches over into right here in parts of Dane County. So it's an eclectic group of people that she represents, and she is going to be here talking about her co-sponsorship of the Right to Work bill.
Or Right to Repair.
Right to Repair. I'm sorry. Good Lord.
Very
Todd.
different things.
Very different things. Yeah, I'm doing 3 things at once. Yes. Right to Repair. Right to Repair.
No, this is a good thing.
People nearly fell off their chairs there. No, Right to Repair bill. And I know that Senator Path was on, I believe, Jane McNair's program yesterday talking about this. And so now one of the other co-sponsors, Sarah Kieski, is going to be here talking about it as well. And what this boils down to is, say, if you're a farmer or somebody and you've got a tractor or a piece of equipment that you should, it's just common sense. Most people think, well, yeah, you should be able to work on your own equipment. No. As it turns out, it's harder than it thinks. Harder than you think. So Senator Kieski will be here to explain that. And we'll also talk to her about, she's a lovely person. We first met her down in beautiful Muscadet last year when she was a candidate. And she was there to listen to folks from Richland Center on the closing of the 2-year campus. One of the few people that actually either Republican or Democratic that took time to come and listen. And so she was there. And I think she's someone who really has communities in focus. So it'll be great to catch up with her and find out how her first few months or first few weeks of being in office is. So Sarah Kieski at the bottom of the hour, state senator. So all of that and much, much more, we're going to try to fit in before the end of the show. And I know it means people, late night people were making fun of this last night. And I guess it is kind of funny, but it's also, this is actually pretty serious stuff. Joann Fabric closing every store. And I know there's a lot of people in Wisconsin that use Joann Fabric, and it's not just fabric, it's baking supplies and it's decorations and things like that. And anybody who crafts, this is a big deal because yes, there are some stores that might carry some of this, but Joann Fabric has been a mainstay, and they're going out of business.
Yeah, if you were looking for specific craft, pieces, materials, that's the word I was looking for. If you're looking for certain materials or certain fabrics or, like you said, baking supplies and things, they were one of the best places to go for sure.
Yeah, so get there quickly because going out of business too. We'll talk a little bit more about Joann Fabric going on business as well. And we're going to have a what's worse for you. But first of all, we want to go back to the phone lines, 855-752-4842. And go out to our friend L.A. Tom out in beautiful Los Angeles, California. Now, L.A., I know you have more going on in your life than just us. But I wish you would have been on yesterday because our what's worse yesterday was what's worse, New York or Los Angeles. And we're not talking about the people, you understand. It's just that there's the Los Angeles Mayor, Karen Bass, who fired the fire chief there, just doesn't seem to be taking a lot of responsibility. And then in New York, you got Eric Adams out there, who is, he's a schmuck and now under Trump's control. And so we had this debate yesterday on what's worse, L.A. or New York. Would you like to weigh in?
I would like to say New York because it's much more congested.
Mm-hmm.
And it's much more of a city where LA really is a tapestry of towns.
It is.
It's a lot of small kind of feeling of towns, throughout the whole area of Los Angeles. And New York is, honestly, it's more like San Francisco. It's just it's a city, and you have to go over a bridge or you have to go far away in order to get away from the city. And I'm one of those people, I like my small town where I grew up, and I think I've made even though my town, my city, whatever, North Hollywood is, probably 300,000 people, it still has, neighborhood type places where you feel like you're in the small town.
That was my point. Yeah, I've spent a lot more time in LA than I have New York City, but I've been to both. And that was kind of my point that if you're just going to say LA, like downtown LA, if I had to judge it on downtown and also the traffic for me in LA, if you're going places, that's what kills me. But to your point, the tapestry of cities. I mean, if I had the money, I could live in Pasadena. I mean, I just think that area is spectacular. I love Pasadena, and it's all these. I spent some time at Hermosa Beach and Downey, West Hollywood. I mean, these are just great little. Yes, they're not little, I know, but to your point, they're communities, and I think that's a beautiful part about LA. But that's not why you called. Go ahead.
Right. The reason I called is I was actually helping my mom yesterday to try to learn how to call her congressperson, and give her opinion. And I actually, Derek, as Tribby would say, Derek Van Aden is her representative. And I actually got him. He was actually in the room when the call came through, and he got on the phone with me.
Really?
And I have to tell you, the man is a very, very rude person. When I said,
was he sober?
That's very interesting you say that, because when I talked to him, first of all, Aaron was great. Aaron is the person that takes the calls, and Aaron was good. And then he practically grabbed the phone away from Aaron and started talking to me. And I said to him, I don't want, or my mom does not want for any of the cuts to come from Medicare, Social Security, or Medicaid, or Obamacare, or Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid. And he was like, "Oh, we're not going to take anything from there no matter what." And I said, "Okay." I said, "I don't want tax cuts going to the Uihleins, and I don't want them going to the Bradley Foundation. I don't want them going to Widow Hendricks. He goes, why do you call her Widow Hendricks? So he got on all defensive with me. I said, well, she is a widow, and her last name's Hendricks, and that's what a lot of people were. Oh, that is the most disrespectful thing I've ever heard a person say. I said, sir, I am your constituent.
Right.
My mother is your constituent. You need to learn that you actually work for us. We don't work for you. And he cursed at me on the phone. It was like, you have got to be. I go, I can't remember what he said. What if it was bull S or what it was. But he said, if you think we're going to cut something there, then I'll buy you a beer. And then I said, well, from what I understand, you need to slow down on your drinking, and you need to maybe not be buying people beers or talking about beers when you're working. I said, and also please be nicer to your staffers. And I told the staffer, Aaron, I said, Aaron, what you ought to do is you ought to run for political office, since you're probably doing most of his work anyway. But yeah, I thought that was really, really quite.
That's interesting.
I was very astonished I actually got him. But two, what a rude person, and what a and I was asking him, I'm saying, when is the town hall meeting going to be? And he says he's going to have one, I guess, in March. When he gets back or whatever. And I said, okay, well, my mom wants to be put on the or on the list to let her know where it is. And my sisters also who live in that area want to all know, when it is. And he was so, like I said, it was Todd, it was rude.
I appreciate you sharing the story. We got to run, but I really, really appreciate LA calling in. That's interesting to have a firsthand account. Of course, Derek Van Orton has been, it does not deny that he verbally attacked and assaulted a teenage librarian in Prairie du Chien, where he lives. He has also not denied that he verbally attacked and assaulted teenage pages in the U.S. Capitol after drinking too much out there. So this guy has a history of being rude to people, and that's unfortunate. Appreciate the call. 855-752-4842. Let's go to Gary in Sussex. Gary, a couple minutes before the break. What say you?
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to call up, and I thought that I was a little bit out of line with Matt yesterday.
Our friend Matt Flynn was on the show. Yeah.
Yeah, Matt. Okay. Now I took offense to the fact that when he said he thinks that Republicans are or whatever. Yeah, took offense to that. But what I want to say, and I want to apologize, because normally I'm pretty calm about things, But I do want to apologize for that.
Well, that's nice. Thank you.
As far as you know, Donnie Deutsch is.
I do not.
Okay, well, he's on CNN.
Okay.
He's very popular. Okay. He said last night that I'm quitting the Democratic Party and I'm going to become an independent because the Democrats have just gone so far. Now, for you and your listeners, if you guys like me, I listen to everybody. If I listen to only The View, like my wife does, I have to deprogram my wife every single night when I come home, because she attacks me on, what about Donald Trump? I said, where'd you hear that? Well, it's on The View. So,
now wait a minute. Yeah. This is very interesting. I want to be appropriate. I don't want to go too far down this road, but I think this is very interesting. Couples that your wife is obviously an avid Democrat, you're avid Republican. Does that affect your relationship?
This is the thing. My wife is a Republican, but when she watches The View, she gets tainted all the time, and she says all this other sort of stuff. So I have to bring her back to the.
Now wait a minute, tainted, Gary. Tainted. She just hears an opposite view. That's not tainted. That's right, being smart.
Right, but she doesn't watch it. She doesn't watch Newsmax, and she doesn't watch Fox. She really doesn't watch that stuff. But she listens to The View, and she votes Republican. I'm telling you, Todd, it's terrible.
All right, I got to run, Gary. But thanks for the apology to Matt. I appreciate that. Back with more on the other side. Cindy's waiting on the line, and we'll get to it. What's worse as well? The outdoor edition. It's the Allbaugh Show on Civic Media.
That was very interesting.
That was very interesting. This is like open line on Wednesday here. This is two interesting, unexpected calls. this is an example for those watching on the stream. This is an example where we kind of had a show, and then we open up the mics, and then we got a show.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
Philadelphia suburb to support a third council member's write-in campaign for mayor. The town of 1,200 residents has only 549 registered voters and one of the highest concentrations of citizens of South Asian descent in the country. The three allegedly solicited personal information from the outside voters, then logged in and changed their state voter registration addresses on the state voter information portal to a Millburn address. The Daily Times quoted the indictment as alleging, in total, defendants Mohammed Nural Hassan, Mohammed Mansour Ali, and Mohammed Rafkol Islam falsely registered nearly 36 non-Millburn residents as Millburn voters and cast ballots for those non-Millburn voters in the 2021 general election for mayor of Millburn, unquote. Hassan...
Is it something you're going to read on air?
Maybe. We'll see. Should I read it on air?
20 seconds to decide.
Wherever it may lead, and having fun doing it. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. Having some fun, unexpected fun. That's the part about this show I love. 2 unexpected calls. Now, Gary's phone call was very, very interesting because, well, they both were. L.A. Tom and talked to Derek Van Orton.
Right.
The only person that I know so far who's actually talked to Congressman Van Orden personally on the phone as a constituent. So that's very interesting. And then we had Gary from Sussex calling in and revealing that his wife, gets all ginned up by the women on The View, and then he has to come home and have these marital political spats. So, One of our texters on the text line says, sounds like Gary's wife might be one of those secret Republican wives voting for Kamala Harris. I don't know. I mean, you don't know, right? I mean, you don't know who when people go in the voting booth. But also it's very kind of Gary to call, and he and Matt Flynn got into a little debate on the show on Monday, and Gary calling in to apologize. So see right there, we could all get along. We could all get along. So I appreciate that. 855-752-4842. Let's go to Cindy listening in Appleton, hometown of Harry Houdini. Cindy, thanks for calling and listening. What say you?
Well, I'm just wondering who's going to do the job loss report for the first 100 days, because I don't know if we can trust anything that comes out of that administration. But I'll be curious to see how many jobs actually were lost in his first great 100 days.
That's a great point that we have not been talking about, Cindy. I appreciate it, right? I mean, usually presidents brag over, well, this is the job creation, my first 100 days. There is going to be a net job loss like nobody's business, like nobody's business in this first 100 days under Donald Trump. Thousands and thousands of people being laid off by Trump. Lots of federal workers, by the way.
Or a lot of them are getting letters. It's called like the fork in the road, where it's like, you should probably go to the private sector. If you don't, there's no guarantee you can still work here at the VA hospital or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so effectively getting laid off, it just might be delayed a few months.
Right. I'm going to send, this is a radio production in real time, Zommers. I'm sending you a cut. I forgot to do this. This is good old Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Oh, boy.
Trump acolyte. Republican member of Congress, ultra MAGA. Now think about this. James Carville was talking about this on CNN with Anderson Cooper last night. James Carville, longtime Democratic strategist, saying his dad was a proud postmaster for years. Think about how many people in our communities, our friends, our families, our neighbors, are post people, I guess you have to say, but postal workers, carriers, letter carriers, federal employees. Think about all the people that work at our Veterans Affairs hospitals, Veterans Affairs nursing homes at King, all the people that take care of our veterans, federal employees. Think about our agriculture workers, USDA, federal employees. They are part of what makes Wisconsin great. Here's what Marjorie Taylor Greene, Donald Trump's lieutenant, thinks of all the people I just mentioned.
You can protest all you want outside of departments of this government. You can protest all you want, but the American people disagree with you. You're protecting the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy is not a business. Those are not real jobs producing federal revenue. By the way, they're consuming taxpayer dollars. Those jobs are paid for by the American tax people who work real jobs, earn real income, pay federal taxes, and then pay these federal employees. Federal employees do not deserve their jobs. Federal employees do not deserve their paychecks. And these are jobs that can be fired at will.
Federal employees do not deserve their jobs. That's what Donald Trump and MAGA believe if you are a federal worker. LA Tom on YouTube says, where's her income coming from?
That's a good point.
Great point, LA. She is a federal employee, by the way. Cadillac Healthcare, being paid for by you and I, the American taxpayer. 855-752-4842. Let's go to Mark in Perdisac. Mark, if you can make it quick, please. What say you?
Yeah, well, maybe Gary's the one that needs to get deprogrammed. I was away from the radio for a bit, but I don't know if you've seen the little Trump turning Gaza into this little paradise where there's all kinds of gold statues to Donald Trump. I mean, it's just disgusting.
Well, I'm glad you brought this. I'm glad you brought this up, Mark, because I want to get this in. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. All the people, and I saw this firsthand in Madison, all the people that had encampments down at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, pro-Palestinian, pro-Gaza. You have people putting anti-Semitic graffiti on the parking garage where I park my truck in every day. All these people saying that I can't vote for the lesser of two evils because Kamala Harris is as bad as Donald Trump. He won't be that bad, so we're going to stay home. All of us in Dearborn, Michigan, we're going to stay home and send Kamala Harris and the Democrats a message. Well, how is that working out for you? Because those folks are as guilty as the MAGA voters in making sure that this happened, what we have right now. And Donald Trump put out a sick video, to Mark's point, literally he's calling it Trump Gaza. Trump Gaza. So how did that work out? All you great folks on the progressive left who wanted to stay home, take a powder, not so hot. Mark, are you still here? Do we have time to bring Mark? But Mark, do you agree or disagree?
I agree. I mean, it's just ridiculous that they should have known better, and I'm just sad that it's just disgusting. I mean, the whole golden calf thing that they've got going with him, it's just sad.
And he put this on his Truth Social, Trump did.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
I mean,
I thought it was fake when I first saw it, but he actually did it.
No, he actually did it. It's a real deal. Appreciate the call, Mark. Come on back. More phone calls. Phones are lit up. We'll take your phone calls in order that they're received. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. We will get to what's worse eventually here. And we have, actually, you know what? We have Sarah Kieski. State Senator Sarah Kieski is here. I got into the phone call, so stay with us. Sarah Kieski is on the other side. So we have so much fun. We get distracted a little bit. But come on back. More on the other side. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. The measles outbreak is getting worse in Texas, and experts are hoping the virus doesn't make its way to Wisconsin because the Badger State is vulnerable, even more vulnerable than Texas. At least 90 people there are now sick. Almost all of them are children, and almost all of them are not vaccinated against measles. Dr. John Brownstein, an epidemiologist who focuses on the spread of illnesses in children.
I'm worried that with the growing increase in unvaccinated kids, that we're just unfortunately seeing the tip of the iceberg when it comes to measles in this country. When you layer a very infectious virus in close quarters with many kids that are unvaccinated, that is a recipe for a disaster.
Wisconsin could be a prime place for that disaster. Only 85% of kindergartners statewide have both doses of the measles vaccine. That's the second lowest rate in the country, behind Alaska. If your child needs the measles vaccine, you can talk to your pediatrician or call your local health department. And now for the latest in the Buc-ee's saga. The beloved Southern gas station chain was going to have their first Wisconsin location in Forest on County Highway V off the interstate. But the 74,000 square foot travel center needed road upgrades to the tune of $15 million. The company said they would cover half that cost, but the village board said they could really only afford about $2 million,
Talk a
and
little
they
bit
would
about
help with the
where
rest.
you came from, where you
In the middle
grew
of all
up.
these delays, the company announced
Yep,
it
go
would
ahead.
also
Put, you
build a
can.
Buc-ee's
So
in
put the
Oak
headphones on. Be
Creek
sure
near
the.
Milwaukee. Well, now the
red
money
is on
for
the
that road
right.
construction is in Governor Tony Evers' budget. His plan
And
would give $6
then
million
let me know,
toward the road
is the,
projects through the
is the
state's
volume
road
too loud,
improvement
too
program.
soft?
But of course,
Test
the
one,
budget
two,
has to
test
go
one.
through Republican
Okay.
lawmakers.
And then so when you have the microphone, I tell people kind of like eat the microphones. You have to have it pretty close to your face like that. Yep. Yeah, you can just go ahead and a little test.
Okay.
Test 1, 2.
How does
test.
that?
Yeah, sounds great. And then when we get going, just have a conversation like normal. Don't
I can
worry.
just look at you.
Yep. Don't
Oh,
worry.
great.
Don't worry
Okay.
about the camera at all.
Oh, okay.
We'll let the
Great.
camera pick up our because it streams. So unlike RCO at Phil's, at RCO they don't do streaming. So we stream on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, X, stuff like that. So yeah, we'll just start having a little chat first of all, and then we'll get into when I was promoting it. This is why I shouldn't do too many things at once. When I was promoting it at the top of the hour, I said Senator Kaczynski's going to be here to talk about our new right to work bill. I
immediately corrected you. We're good.
It was corrected immediately. Two very different things.
And I'm just going to clarify. It's Kaczynski with a K,
Key.
a long
All right, Key.
E.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
fine.
Yep.
I'm trying to teach people because I think it's hard to know how to say it.
I'm very, very glad you did that. All right. And Lodi, correct?
Yeah.
All right, very good. So how's it been so far?
You know, it is just so fascinating, so much to learn. I really like it. But we're not in session yet.
Right.
And so I don't even quite have the full picture of what it's going to be like. So
you're only really just for the inauguration. That was the only floor session you've really had so far, right?
Yeah, and then I had one committee hearing. That's it.
Okay.
So far.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to do great. I mean, just getting out there, and I was just really impressed when you showed up in Muscatine and at the listening session, and I think that's really what people want to hear, or what people want to experience is a legislator, regardless of political party. It just is going to show up, listen, and participate. So
well, and I'm excited to be able to do that. I mean, because that's my favorite thing to do is to go out and meet people and talk about their concerns. I mean, as a therapist, I'm a pretty good listener, and I kind of enjoy, just knowing what the pulse is.
We can actually touch on. I'm not sure if you saw. I won't ask you about the story, but there's a story by Kelly Meyerhofer in the Journal Sentinel yesterday. She wrote a great piece on mental health and this young woman who died by suicide on the UW track team a couple of years ago, and just everything that UW is now trying to provide more health providers.
All right, 20 seconds.
Mental health. So I won't ask about the story, but we can touch on that. wherever it may lead, and having fun doing it. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. Glad to have you along. 34 minutes now past the hour of 1 o'clock on this Wednesday, February 26, 2025. Getting a few texts in that may be having audio troubles on some of our platforms, but I believe, though, we're on that, and Zommers, that our great engineering team is aware of it. We're correcting it if it has not been corrected already.
Fixed.
Very good. Fantastic, guys. We always appreciate the great work of Zommers and all of our engineers. Thanks for the great discussion last segment as well. We'll try to sneak into what's worse before the end of the show here, but right now we are joined by new freshman state senator from the 14th district here in the state of Wisconsin, Sarah Kieski, who is from the, we'll call it south central part of the state, but reaches over into the old neighborhood there in Richland County. And she is here in person for those watching on stream, YouTube, Facebook, whatnot. It's great, Senator, to have you here in person, and kind of one of the advantages we have only being a block away from the Capitol.
Yeah, it's a really easy little commute I had.
Well, welcome to the show. We met last fall, when you were campaigning down in Muscatine, Wisconsin. For those that don't know, that's just south of Richland County. And there was a listening session there, and it was regarding the closure of the two-year campus at Richland Center. And you were there along with now former Representative Katrina Shankland and Senator Royce as well. And I was so impressed that even though you weren't a senator yet, you took time out of your campaign to listen and then to give your viewpoint. And I think, regardless of partisan politics, that so many people in Wisconsin are just looking for an elected official who will legit listen and then hear what they're saying. Is that what you attribute to part of your, you knocked off an incumbent, which is not an easy thing to do. Do you attribute your listening skills to part of your victory?
I guess you would have to ask the voters, right, fully, but I think people did experience from me a sense that I really do care, and I do really want to hear from them. Just who I am as a person that has always worked in the service field of being a counselor, my greatest skill probably is listening and trying to hear the heart of what is going on for somebody. And so I brought that to the table just because that's who I am. And so I think it is, as somebody that wants to be in service to people, that skill I think is a little bit underrepresented and much needed. So I think people appreciated it a lot. And then hopefully that was one of the reasons.
Your district, the 14th, I call it an eclectic district. Maybe that's not the right word, but it stretches from basically the east side of Madison and then north, kind of along the interstate, and then encompasses, goes west into parts of Sauk County, into my home county of Richland County in southwest Wisconsin. You're originally from Lodi. Is that where you grew up at?
No, I grew up in a small town called Cashton, Wisconsin. Yeah.
I know exactly where Cashton is.
Oh,
at.
really? Yeah. So, when I grew up, it was about 850 or so was the population. Now I think it might be 1,000. So a really small town in Monroe County. But I've lived in Lodi now since 2017.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, Cashton, for those that don't know, just north of Richland County, kind of south of La Crosse, and Organic Valley Dairy has expanded there, and it's a huge part of their economy out there in Cashton. So you live in Lodi. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what led you to run for the state senate.
Yeah. So my background is, like I said, I grew up on a dairy farm. And so I was really deeply entrenched in living in small rural Wisconsin. And all that entails, right? It means you know the neighbors, you know the business of the neighbors. You also help the neighbors when things are going wrong. You grow up in a small rural school, which is really the bedrock then of that community. I went off to study. I have a master's degree in counseling psychology, and I've worked for 25 years doing counseling services for individuals, couples, and families. And that's just been my passion for all these years. I've just loved my work. But with the changes in the political landscape, I became more concerned about the world I was leaving my children and bringing our children into, and became increasingly more active in just the political realm and wanting to do my part. And that transitioned into starting a nonprofit when COVID hit our small community, because it really seemed to divide us in a way that was so unfortunate, both because I think we all were choosing to live there because we care about that small connected piece that we were seeking in that rural lifestyle. But with the changes and the pulls of political division, there's just so much rancor. And I was then seeing where I brought my children, where I was raising them, it became kind of a hostile environment. And I just felt so compelled to just do whatever I could. As a mental health provider, that meant, well, how do you help people feel better? How do you help people care about each other? So it was really just this idea of then focusing on how do we work together? How do we uplift our environment? It was called Lift Lodi. It was really coming together in service of one another. And from that, I inadvertently just got on the radar of people that said, "Hey, Sarah, will you do more? Because we like what you stand for. We like what you're trying to do, your mission of service." And so initially I was asked to run in an unwinnable assembly district. And I said, well, why would I ever
I've been
do
there.
Yeah. Well, good for you then, because you know how hard it is to run, and so then it's just a passion project, really. So that's what I was willing to do. Again, I was so concerned about what was happening on the national level, local level. And so I said, yeah, I will do that because, again, that's my way to serve. So I was doing that, and then the new maps came about. And then I thought, okay, good. Now people do want to run in that district because it became more winnable, possibly. And I was then, after a lot of people had conversations that I didn't know anything about, I was asked, would I be willing to instead move to run for the Senate? And I think that really just came from people seeing who I was, seeing what I stood for, and getting behind that. And I really, it honestly is really kind of this unbelievable journey that I didn't expect. And now, like about a year later, here I am, and it's amazing. And I would have never predicted it, but it feels absolutely like the right place to be.
Well, I just appreciate you sharing your story. We all have a journey, and from what I've seen, this is a very grassroots thing. And you're an authentic person. You're genuine. You are who you are, and I think that really connects with people. We're talking to State Senator Sarah Kieski, new freshman here, Democrat from we'll call it South Central Wisconsin. One of your first bills here, you're co-sponsoring, Senator, is something that I didn't even really know we needed until I kind of dug into this. It's called Right to Repair. Tell folks why this is needed and why you're a co-sponsor.
So it's something that I did here on the campaign trail, and I too was quite fascinated by it because when I was growing up, again on the small farm that we had, my dad just repaired his own equipment. That's what he did. Every small engine he kind of, and he Jimmy rigged a lot of things. He was like the natural MacGyver, and so to me, when I learned about this, I didn't even quite know what do you mean you can't fix your own equipment. And really the tools and some of the products that are needed for fixing are now limited to just these dealerships that have sold you the equipment, and so you can't do your own repairs. And so it's cost prohibitive oftentimes to either go through that dealership only because it's then a bit of a monopoly, right? It limits your choices. And so and you weren't able initially, now it's gotten better, to have access to those products. Let's say it's a computer program oftentimes now, because these equipment, this machinery now is this so advanced. But in order to even get access to that, it's in thousands of dollars. And you've already paid into a piece of equipment that was hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And so it's but if you did work on your own equipment, or if you had a local trusted repair person, that could equate with your warranty is no longer good, right? And so you're kind of stuck. And so this is just an opportunity to say, okay, people should have the right to have access at a fair cost. A fair cost. Not saying that they can't make some profit. I mean, I'm not anti-business, right? But I am for competition. And so in order to be able to then be able to get access to this, and or have a independent mechanic have access to this so that they can work on your equipment. So you can have somebody that you know and have a relationship with, or is closer to you, or is more available at a desperate time of need. Because when do tractors maybe break down?
When you need them the most.
When you need them the most, right?
No.
And when are they needed the most? It's during harvesting, right? Or planting. Who else is harvesting? Everybody.
Right.
And so if it has happening, then it might be a epidemic, right, of time. And if you have a limited resource of people that can service your equipment, you might be waiting, and you can't wait when you're a farmer.
Right.
You need to be able to have that fixed expeditiously. So that's kind of the concept behind it and why it's so necessary.
Yeah, my granddad was a farmer in Richland County, dairy farmer for 40 years, and he had a Minneapolis Moline, and then he was one of the first people that got a Deutz, it was called at the time, one of the first German tractors. He worked on it all the time, and I think he would look at this bill that you are co-sponsoring, the right to repair bill, and say, well, this is just common horse sense, as he used to say. But to your point, and we're talking to State Senator Sarah Kieski here on her new co-sponsorship of the bill, Right to Repair bill. I think this would surprise a lot of people. I know State Senator Paff was on Jay McNair's show yesterday, the day before, talking about this as well, that there are maybe apps available, because so much of this, like our cars now, are computerized. But again, that costs thousands or hundreds of dollars just to download the app. And really, I would think that people, agricultural producers, owners of this equipment would say, look, it doesn't matter what party you're from, we should all be able to work on our own equipment without costing thousands of dollars. Have you talked to any Republicans so far in the legislature? Have you gotten a sense that there might be a bipartisan approach to a very common sense bill?
I'm going to remain hopeful.
I like that.
Yes, I'm going to remain hopeful. Let's just wait and see. I'm going to cross my fingers because, like you're saying, farmers come in red and blue or purple or indifferent, right? Yeah. And so I don't think this should be a partisan issue. I think it's just understanding this is helping the cornerstone of our economy, right? We're helping those farmers, help them with their costs, which we know we need to, do more to make sure that costs aren't just so going out of out of reason. Yeah. And we also want to be able to have maybe small businesses benefit. So, some mechanic maybe could blossom a new business in a small area where he knows he could have agricultural equipment he could work on. And then it's another opportunity for jobs.
We're coming up about a minute and a half. The time always goes quickly. I know you have other appointments to go to, so we don't want to monopolize your time. But, Senator, is there anything I haven't asked you about your co-sponsorship of the Right to Repair bill that you believe that listeners should know?
Nothing in particular. I think just understanding, again, it's kind of simple, if you will. Yeah. I don't know that we need to I don't know that we need to make it that complex, right? Mm-hmm. Do people believe that others should have the right to either repair their own equipment at a fair, reasonable cost, have access to the things they need, and or be able to have it with an independent repair person? That just makes good sense. That seems like it helps with again, access and keeping something from being too monopolized in a way that I don't think is honoring competition in the way that we really do need to in the business field.
Yeah, I agree. Minute left here. Give us a sense. You haven't really had a proper floor session yet other than your inauguration, but what's it like just to be in the building?
Oh my gosh, it's like, it's magnificent. And it's so hard to explain what it's like as a new person because, I walk in and, it's magnificent, but then like the next day you'll notice something else about, like maybe it's the doorknob and how intricately designed it is, right? Or you look at the panels on the walls in this new committee room. I mean, it's just ornate. And then you look at the pictures of the people that have been there. You're just like, it is such a historical moment. It is such a privilege.
Privilege to have you on the show. We'll have you back soon. State Senator Sarah Kieski, thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, it's just my pleasure. Thank you, Todd.
Our pleasure. Come on back. We'll wrap things up after this on Civic Media.
Great conversation. 92.7 WMDX.
Blind Shot Social Club, a perfect blend of cool, casual dining, indoor golf with space for events, craft cocktails, and non-alcoholic drinks too. A hidden gem on Madison's East Side. Blind Shot Social Club, open to everyone. BlindShotSocialClub.com.
Transform your outdoor space with David J. Frank, Wisconsin's award-winning landscape management company for 65 years. You've seen their beautiful work at Hilldale Shopping Center. From expert lawn care to seasonal flower beds, precise trimming and sustainable solutions, David J. Frank makes your vision a reality. And right now is the best time to prune or remove trees. Request your free quote today at davidjfrank.com and get on their list for spring cleanups. David J. Frank, 65 years of excellence in every blade of grass.
Listen to the John and Gordy Show weekdays right here on WMDX, sponsored by Verlo Mattress. Sleep better, dream bigger on a handcrafted, locally made mattress. Find them on Madison's East and West Side or online at verlo.com.
Yo, I'm your old basketball. Haven't seen you out on the courts in a while. Why not pass me over to Goodwill? Donating me helps Goodwill's mission to provide career training and support services right here in the community. And that's a slam dunk. Donate today. Hey, I got next.
To find your nearest Goodwill locations and to learn more about our mission, please visit goodwill.org. Goodwill, where your things start new lives.
The John and Gordy Show.
Brittany Merlot, our civic media meteorologist.
You know, I prefer the snow. I hate the ice. Death by driveway, be careful. I mean, just stepping outside of your house, don't slip and fall.
Did you say death by driveway? I'm just...
I did.
Welcome back to the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. It is now 9 before the hour of 2 o'clock. On the top of the hour, ABC and CBS News, depending upon which of our great stations you're listening to all across the Civic Media Radio Network. And then Maggie Dawn in from 2 until 4 every afternoon. The Maggie Dawn Show, always a fantastic treat. I believe if I heard correctly on the promos, Mr. Sommers, our old friend Matt Rothschild filling in for Dom Selvia today.
He's at least joining in. I don't know about filling in. I might have missed that, but he will be on the show.
You'll get a dose of Matt, and that's always a good thing. He's a great guy, and stay tuned for that as well. And then Pete Schwaba tonight on Nightlight with Pete and Conrad. So be aware and be there for that. Many thanks to State Senator Sarah Kieski. What a wonderful person she is.
Definitely. I'm very glad we have somebody who so clearly just loves her community, doing what she can to help them out. And right to repair is something I've been aware of for a long time and is very important and just seems like common sense.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely fantastic. And it's good to hear an elected official who's working on legislation that affects real issues with real people. I mean, here's something, doesn't matter whether you've got a snowblower or $100,000, $200,000 tractor, whatever it might be. Everyone should be able to, work on their own equipment in their garage or the workshop or whatever. So,
yeah, it makes sense. I see some people say, well, new tractors are more complicated than old tractors. This is true. And so that's why part of right to repair is the documentation explaining it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to the phone lines quickly. 855-752-4842. Jack in Merrimack standing by. Jack, always glad to have you along. What have you got for us today?
Well, two things. First of all, Marjorie Taylor Greene has been, she's just repeating this old Republican saw that government has to operate like a business. Excuse me, government is not a business. You hire these people, civil servants, and hopefully legislators to be of service to the people of the country. It's not a business. It is a service. The second thing is, if she really wants more of a business approach, bring in more money to the government, very simple answer.
Right.
Tax the rich more. Oh, yes. And don't cut the funding for IRS agents so that there are enough of them that they can actually spend some time looking at the rich that are not paying their taxes.
Right.
That's a real easy solution. If you want to operate it like a business and you want more money coming in, there's your answer.
Thanks, Jack. Appreciate the call. 855-752-484. Should we do a 4-minute version of the thing just for the fun of it? Why not?
Sure.
Let's go. Here we go. Time for What's Worse speed round. Let's go.
Then, of course, the choice is yours. You can get with this.
Time once again for What's Worse, the speed round edition. A busy day, but we'll sneak it in here at the end. This is timely indeed. As Mike Lucas likes to say, spring is here for many of it. I mean, it's warm out there. We're going to be doing some hiking. Now, when you're hiking, especially in the spring, like Todd might be a little out of shape, a little bulk on you. What's worse, walking uphill or walking downhill? 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. You can also text us on the Civic Media app. What's worse, walking uphill or walking downhill?
Previously, we've asked about stairs. Similar question with stairs. What I'm most interested in is how does this answer differ for people's answer on stairs? Like if somebody says we had a few people say walking downstairs is more dangerous because you might trip and fall and hurt yourself. And I wonder if people have the same feeling about hills.
Therein lies your answer, because I think for a lot of people, stairs are different than just walking down a grass hill or up a grass hill. What's worse, walking uphill or walking downhill? 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842, or give us a call or text rather on the Civic Media app, or like our friend Robert watching on Facebook says, depends on if I'm just starting to exercise or finishing up. That is a practical answer.
It is.
And he's 100% right. If you're just starting out, it's like, I can walk up a hill. But if you got to finish by walking up the hill, very different. L.A. Tom, watching on YouTube, says walking downhill is worse. Walking uphill is more hard work. And walking downhill is better, I guess. Walking uphill is...
No, he wants the challenge. So he's saying walking downhill is worse.
Got it. I'm sorry. I misread that. I apologize, L.A. So he's, see, now there's a guy, he's walking up those hills in beautiful Southern California. Why not, right? Beautiful palm trees and whatnot. Cindy in Appleton. What's worse, Cindy? Walking uphill or walking downhill?
Well, being a runner,
yes,
I have always believed in taking advantage of gravity. So the downhill's the good part, uphill's the bad part.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Cindy. What's worse, uphill or downhill? Greg in Genesee Depot, listening on AUK, says walking uphill is worse. What else we got here? Tyler in Wisconsin Rapids is a Karina fan. He says whatever Karina says is best. All right, very good. Brian, listening in Milwaukee in WAUK, says both are worse. Depends on how steep, but uphill is definitely worse. I guess uphill is worse for him. Dave, listening in New Berlin, says walking uphill is worse as well. Zommers?
I'm gonna say that uphill is worse because I'm just thinking about a muddy hill. If the hill is muddy, I can slide down. But if it's muddy, you can't even walk up the hill. You just keep falling.
This is a story for another day, but years ago, I was hiking up a volcano in El Salvador.
Ooh.
And Volcan Izalco. And when you get to the top, there's like a lot of ash, and you just take like 2 or 3. You're crawling, basically, and then sliding back. So, yeah, I'll say uphill is worse.
Seems
there
like that's the consensus.
A speed round edition of What's Worse. Come on back tomorrow. More of What's Worse and more fun. Your phone calls as well. Many thanks to Trigby Olson, Mike Johnson, State Senator Sarah Kieski, Zommers, and you. We appreciate all of you listening and playing along. Whatever you're fighting for, whatever you believe in, do not give up. Keep banging your drum. Maggie Dawn is next. See you tomorrow.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Adios. Thank you. Bye-bye.